How's everyone today? Good. I see more of you came today than last time because the weather's a little bit nicer. Although I was still kind of shocked. When I stuck my head out the window this morning, I was surprisingly cool for late April. I'm not complaining, of course, because it's nice. I know it gets very hot in the summer here. So if we have a little bit more cooler weather, that's fine. Now, all we need is some more rain because we had some rain about a week ago, but it's been pretty dry since then. I was just on Tuesday and Wednesday this week, I took my sister and my niece up to, on Tuesday, we drove up to Jiufen, and it was very wet up there. It was not raining hard, but it was raining all day. And it was kind of, but it was nice. You know, I don't know, I'm sure most of you have been to Jiufen before, but when it's kind of wet and rainy, it gives it a kind of a romantic feeling, you know, it's, especially that part of the country. But I think it's like that all the time up there, right? Up near Keelung. And we went through Ruifang and up to Jiufen. And yeah, that part of Taiwan has a very different feeling to it. But then we went to, yesterday we spent some time in Danshui. And we stayed we spent the night in I believe it's Sanzhi on the coast, which, as you know, is Li Denghui's hometown. So, yeah, but I didn't see any signs anywhere that said Li Denghui's hometown, but I just read that it was Li Denghui's hometown. So anyhow, that was kind of fun just to get away for a couple days and see everything. But yeah, but it's much more wet up there than it is down here in Taichung or down in Kaohsiung. So anyhow, hopefully we'll get some Meiyu here soon, plum blossom rains. Okay, so today I have a few stories to look at, and I thought we would start with, this is the main headline story in the newspaper, Taipei Times this morning. It says, Taiwan has real-time Five Eyes links. Now this name Five Eyes is very interesting, and we'll learn about this in the article. It's a special name that we're starting to see more of. But when we say we say real-time information or real-time data, what does anyone know what this means? Well, imminent or immediate. Imminent more means like something's about to happen. But if we say immediate, it means it's now. It's as it happens. So he just said the word imminent. Now, imminent means that it's going to happen very soon. For example, if the sky is very dark and it's very cloudy, we say, oh, it looks like rain is imminent. That means rain is about to happen. It's going to happen soon. But that's a little bit different from the word immediate, of course. You know, I think you all know the word immediate. To do something means, right now. So real-time information means that we're getting information as it's happening right now. So I'll give you an example. In our modern era, you know, when we watch the news on TV, often you see real-time news, right? So let's say, let's say there's a rocket taking off in America, and CNN or Fox News or somebody has a camera there, and they're showing you this happening as it's happening. It's not like they record it and then they show it to you later on, or they write about it in the newspaper tomorrow. This is real time, so as it's happening, you are seeing it at the same time. So I guess you could say, in a way, real time almost means like same time. You know, it's the same time. But I think immediate would be quite a clear, easy word. But imminent again means it's going to happen almost very soon. Imminent. Okay. So why don't we say together imminent, imminent, immediate, immediate. Okay, and so yeah, real-time information. If if you're in the military or the government or even just us, you know, it's nice to have real-time information. So it says, watching China, a DPP lawmaker said that Beijing would not dare set up one of its police stations in Taiwan, but it would use third parties to manipulate people. What is this word manipulate? Controlled. Use is probably a good word. Yeah. If you use someone or something to do something, you manipulate it. Now, manipulate can be a very neutral word. It can be just a normal word, right? You can say, I manipulated my computer or my phone to make it do something, right? I worked on it. I did something to it. I manipulated it. But sometimes if we say to manipulate people, that has a negative feeling to it, right? Because you don't want to just use somebody to do something you want. So when we say somebody is manipulating you, if you say don't listen to him, he is just manipulating you. Means don't follow him or don't do what he wants because he's just using you to do something. Maybe something that he wants for himself. And so people who are good at manipulating others, of course, we can use this. We can say a very manipulative. Manipulative. I believe that's a good word. Yeah. Manipulative is a 形容词. Someone likes to use people, for their own benefit. So why don't we say this together? Manipulate. Manipulate. Manipulative. Manipulative. Right. So, some people are very manipulative. They're good at using people, but it's very negative when you hear this word. So anyhow, it says China would use third parties to manipulate people. Now, what is a third party? Does anyone know? It's somebody else. Basically, that's, for example, let's say I want to give him a message, but I don't want to talk to him directly. I might use a third party to deliver that message. So I might say, hey, could you tell him that I'm not happy, or could you tell him or help? So you're using a third person to do something, and it's not like an actual it could be a group of people, it could be an individual, but it just means another, using it like and it's to manipulate people instead of doing something directly. Okay, so let's read this article and find out what this is about. It says Taiwan maintains real-time intelligence sharing with the Five Eyes Alliance of the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. National Security Bureau Director General Tsai Ming-yen said yesterday. Okay, so here we have that word, real-time intelligence sharing. So intelligence, of course, you know what intelligence here means, right? If you are a government or a military, you need information about what's going on, and we call it intelligence. Of course, we can say we all have intelligence in our heads, right? We're intelligent. We have, some people have more intelligence than others, but here we're talking about information, not what's in your brain. So we're talking about knowing what's going on. Of course, if you're a government intelligence or military, government intelligence is very, very important. You have to know what other people are doing or what's going on outside or even inside your country. So we talk about the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, or there's many other intelligence agencies around the world. So here it maintains, of course, means it keeps or has. We could simply say it has real-time intelligence sharing. They're sharing information back and forth with the Five Eyes Alliance. And we talked about the word alliance before, right? What's alliance mean? It's like it's like working together. It's like a cooperation, right? This is where we get the word ally, right? And an ally is someone you work with, a friend, an alliance. Okay, so this is an alliance. It's a group of countries that cooperate closely with each other. And of course, we have the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So why don't we say these words together? Intelligence, intelligence, alliance, alliance. Okay, and so this is what's going on. Let's read this together then. Taiwan maintains real-time intelligence sharing with the Five Eyes Alliance of the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. New Zealand. National Security Bureau Director General Tsai Ming-yen said yesterday. Okay. So it says here, Tsai made the remark during a legislative session in Taipei after a lawmaker asked if Taiwan had such exchanges with the group. Okay, let's read the second paragraph here as well, the third paragraph. Chinese Nationalist Party legislator Charles Chen said he had discovered that the NSB had been upgrading its computer equipment last year and this year to the level of those used by intelligence units in foreign countries. Okay, so so basically they were answering a question here. Now it's interesting, it says he discovered the NSB, this is the National Security Bureau, have been upgrading. What's an upgrade? Right. So what do we upgrade in life or in your lives? What do you like to upgrade? A what? Your salary? I think that we'd probably say more like raise our salary. But upgrade has a slightly different idea. What else will we upgrade? Our cell phones. Yeah, that's a big one. You know, it seems like people buy a new cell phone every 2 years or so. Maybe, you know, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I use my cell phone usually until it breaks. So my last cell phone, not this one, but my last one, I think I used it for 4 years or more. Although by that time it was getting pretty old. But yeah, people like to upgrade their technology, right? Their computers, their cell phones, their TVs, their, I don't know, there's many things we can upgrade. Or their cars, you know, people upgrade their cars. I know in America, some people like to buy a new car every 2-3 years. I used to think that was kind of strange, but I think there's something smart about that too, because if you sell your car within 2-3 years, you'll probably get more money for it, right? Whereas me, I use my car until it's junk almost. But maybe if they keep selling their car every 2-3 years, they can get more money for it when they sell it, and then they can upgrade again. But anyhow, that's a personal choice. So anyhow, why don't we say this together? Upgrade. Upgrade. Right, and this can be a 动词 or a 名词. You can say, I have the latest upgrade in my to my phone, or I've received the latest upgrade. Another thing we upgrade a lot is software, right? Our programs. So you know, how many times have you had on your phone or your computer, it says, would you like to upgrade this program or this software? And so you download a new upgrade, or you say, I upgraded my software. So upgraded my software, of course, is a 动词. But you can say, I received, or I got, or I downloaded the latest upgrade, and then it's a 名词. Okay, so it has been upgrading its computer equipment last year and this year to the level of those used by intelligence units in foreign countries. Now, of course, a unit is just a organization. Often it describes a smaller organization, not a huge organization, but it could be anything. It could be big or small. Okay, so that's any questions about this? Okay. I think what they do is basically, of course, all these countries have their own intelligence agencies, right? And so I think basically each country gathers intelligence and then they cooperate with each other. They share it with each other. All kinds. I mean, I'm sure, that. And you say human intelligence, you know, people. It could be electronic. It could be anything. So there's many types of things, but the point is they all cooperate and they share that information, which makes them able to cover more. And of course it helps those groups, those countries. Okay, any other questions? No. Your blood pressure. Okay, you wouldn't want to upgrade. I mean, that sounds kind of, obviously we don't normally say upgrade, but yeah, usually high blood pressure is no good. You want low blood pressure, right? But we could say, I want to improve my blood pressure. I want to lower my blood pressure. No, you wouldn't say that. That would might sound kind of bad, actually. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good example. You could upgrade your relationship, right? So you could say Taiwan and the U.S. are upgrading their relationship with each other. You could say, or I guess you could even say we've upgraded our relationship with each other. You know, we're now spending more time together or something like that. So yeah, there's many things we can upgrade. But for blood pressure, I would probably say I want to improve my blood pressure. I want to lower my blood pressure. I want to, things like that, but we would not say upgrade. Okay, any other questions? Anything else? Regulate simply to control your blood pressure, to keep it under a certain level. Yeah. So hopefully all of you are doing that, keeping your blood pressure under control. I was just telling her, I have a doctor friend in Hawaii, and he has a very good theory. I think it's true. I believe him. He said that, in America, we're very obsessed with, we're very focused on reducing our sodium input. Sodium, you know what sodium is? Yeah, so it's like salt, right? So Americans are always saying we need to reduce our sodium. Everything's low sodium, or people are always saying low sodium diets. But my friend said, he thinks the main challenge is to increase or have a high enough level of potassium. You know what potassium is? Yeah. So because potassium helps reduce your sodium, right? It helps your body. So he said the problem is Americans don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, right? So if you're eating enough fruits and vegetables, if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, you shouldn't have to worry about your sodium input as much. The problem is Americans are focused just on sodium and they're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. Anyhow, that's his theory. I think it's a good theory, right? And in Taiwan, fortunately, there's lots of fruits and vegetables. So that's my advice, is eat lots of fruits and vegetables, and then you don't have to worry about your sodium as much, hopefully. Yeah, we can try that. Well, it's not very tasteful, right? There's not much flavor if you don't use any sodium. I think, again, if you eat your meat and your salt, but you have lots of fruits and vegetables, I think it should be better for you. Okay, so let's read this together. Tsai made the remark during a legislative session in Taipei after a lawmaker asked if Taiwan had such exchanges with the group. Chinese Nationalist Party legislator Charles Chen said he had discovered that the NSB had been upgrading its computer equipment last year. And this year to the level of those used by intelligence units let's say it again, intelligence units in foreign countries. Right. Okay. So that's a photo there. Let's go on. It says, Chun asked Tsai if the upgrades could help Taiwan better connect to the Five Eyes. The Bureau had allocated funds to establish an instant online reporting and communication mechanism with foreign nations, Tsai said. Actually, this is a good word also. We talked about real time, immediate. You could also say instant, right? Instant would be a good word, right? Because it's right now, it's instant. You can say, instant news, immediate, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, simultaneous would be a good word too. That's a bit of a longer word, but that's also, yeah. So yeah, that would be a good. I don't know if we've learned this word. I think maybe. Yeah. So simultaneous, or sometimes we say simultaneously, right? Simultaneous means like right at the same time. So he mentioned simultaneous interpretation, right? If you're a fan yi, right? And let's say somebody is doing a 演讲 in English, and you can interpret at the same time while they're talking. That's a real skill. I tell you, one place you see that often if you go to an international conference, or like I know United Nations, the UN, 联合国, they have all these simultaneous interpreters. So as people are making a speech or talking, you hear they have these headphones on and they're hearing the speech at the same time. in another language. I would think it'd be very challenging. But yeah, but you could say these two things are happening simultaneously. Okay, they're happening at the same time. There's one other word that is not as common, but it also is similar idea. Not so much. We say concurrent or concurrently. So if two things or two events are happening at the same time, we say, let's say, for example, you can say, I'm having a meeting over here, but concurrently there's a meeting over there, or concurrently there's a concurrent event taking place over there. It means they're happening at the same time. So concurrent or concurrently means, yeah, two things at the same time. It's interesting because there's this word current, which means like right now, currently, but concurrently means happening at the same time. So these are all good words that have a similar idea to them, okay? So why don't we say this together? Simultaneous. Simultaneous. Okay, so we talk about this simultaneous broadcast, right? Where there's like, I don't think we would say 直播 would be live. Often we say live broadcast, right? But if something is simultaneous, we just say simultaneous, interpretation. There's many things that happen simultaneously. So once more, simultaneous. Simultaneously. Concurrent. Concurrently. Yeah. I will say this word here, concurrent, is more usually used with events, things that are happening, like a meeting, like anything that event. We say concurrent event, something that's happened or happened, right? Yes. That's a different word. Yeah, concur means if someone says I concur, like here we say I concur. I concur means what? I agree. Okay, so I concur. I think I'm spelling that right. CONCUR. So if you say I concur, it means I agree with what you just said. This word it's used, it's common, but it's not near as common as agree, right? But if you're in a meeting, for example, or you're having a discussion, this word often gets used. Let's say you make your point and then you say something, I say, well, yeah, I concur with what you just said. It means I agree with what you just said. I will follow what you just said. So this is a very, good word. Why don't we say together, I concur. I concur. Okay, yeah, concurrently, yeah. So anyhow, this is all very these are all very good words. Like instant, immediate, yeah. Live, we just mentioned the word live reporting. Okay, so anyhow, let's go on here then. It says the Bureau had allocated funds to establish an instant online reporting and communication mechanism with foreign nations, Tsai said. Now, what's this word allocate mean? Yeah. It means to, actually a better word for this would be probably to budget, to set aside, okay? So for example, let's say you want to buy a new car and you don't have enough money right now, but you say, I'm going to allocate that money next year to buy a new car. I'm going to set aside, I'm going to budget, I'm going to put aside that money. It means I'm going to there's another word that's kind of interesting. We don't use it all the time, but it kind of has the same idea, especially with money. We say to earmark. It's a weird word, right? Earmark. Ear is your earmark. But it's a word, and to be honest, I don't know the exact origin of that word, but it probably has a very colorful origin, or from where it came from. But if we say I'm going to earmark this money for this job, means I'm going to allocate, I'm going to set aside this money, I'm going to budget this money for something. Okay, so yeah, here the Bureau, this NSB, has allocated money to create or establish an instant online reporting and communication mechanism. So it's instant, it's simultaneous, it's immediate, it's real time. Yeah. Okay, with foreign nations. So why don't we say that word together? Allocated. Allocated. Now, if you want to turn that into a means, so you just add a TION. So why don't we say that to allocation? Allocation. Yeah, so it's a good word. It's not a word, I would use every day, but it's pretty common. Okay, so let's read this then. The Bureau had allocated funds to establish an instant online reporting and communication mechanism. With foreign nations, Tsai said. Okay, I forgot to say another word here. I think you probably know. Mechanism is usually like, we think of a machine, right? There's something in there that makes it go or work, right? Like a watch, for example. I like the watch I'm wearing right now is a mechanical watch, right? So it's not electronic. There's actually parts in there that are moving. And so we say there is a mechanism inside my watch that makes it go. There's a mechanism in your car, right? The engine that makes it go. But here, when we say a reporting and communication mechanism, that sounds strange. Like, what is there, a machine? But actually what they're talking about, this is more like a way of saying system, like a 系统. It's like a mechanism. So for example, if I say, what is the mechanism for communication between you and your company? Or what mechanism do you use to pay your bills, or your money when you have to pay your, your electrical bills? What kind of mechanism do they use in Taiwan? You'd say, well, you go to 7-Eleven and you pay everything there. So it's more like a way, a system, a 系统 for doing something. It doesn't mean like a machine with, parts. Although it could mean a machine with parts. Like I said, your watch or your car or anything that has moving parts. So why don't we say it together? Mechanism. Okay, so they put aside the money. They've earmarked money or funds to establish this instant, real-time, immediate online reporting and communication mechanism with foreign nations. So those are all good words, good uses of words. Any questions on that? Does everybody understand that? Okay, so let's go on. It says, Chun asked if the upgrade would enable the Bureau to share and receive intelligence from the Five Eyes Alliance. Let's go on. It says, Tsai said that the NSB would do so via a secure and encrypted system. Okay, so you know what a secure means, of course, right? Secure means, what's a simple word for secure? Safe, yeah. We often say, right now, they feel very safe and secure. They're very similar words. We talk about security. But of course, here it means safe. Of course, when you're using intelligence, you don't want it to, leak out, 漏掉, 漏出去. You want to keep it safe. So we say a secure and encrypted. Now, this word encrypted is very interesting. What does this mean? Yeah, we talk about encryption. We often say code, C-O-D-E. Now, code, of course, there's many different kinds of code, but it's C-O-D-E. Like, when you go to your T-Quan-G, there's like a 密码, right? A code number or secret password. We say a code. But here, encrypted is like, I'll give you an example. If you want to make a secure phone call to somebody, and the phone automatically will encrypt, not your phone, but maybe somebody's phone, will encrypt that message. It will code it. It will change it into something else that no one else can read. Does everybody understand that? Encrypted? Okay, so if we say he received an encrypted message, usually what happens is it has to be decrypted. Okay, now that word D is D-E, okay, decrypted. Just like if we say code or decode. To decode is to open the code or to open it up so you can read it. So you just add the word DE or letters DE, like decode, decrypt, instead of EN. Now, actually, this is a good point. If you want to put something in code, we can say to encode something. Okay? It means that you're taking that and you're putting it into code so that nobody can read it, or nobody without the code can read it. It's kind of fun. I know that people sometimes will create their own codes, their secret codes, right? so that nobody can read those things. And you can only decode it, okay, if you have the right information or whatever it is. Actually, there's another word I will use. You don't have to memorize this because it's quite, but often we say there is a cipher. A cipher is like the key to decoding something. It's like if you want to know how to read something or to open it up, you need the cipher, and it's like a special, not a real key, like a real 钥匙, but it's like something that you use to unlock the code, okay? There's some fun movies in Hollywood that talk about secret codes and secret messages. And I don't know if you've ever read, there's a very famous novelist, and many of his books were made into movies, called Dan Brown. Yeah, he wrote the Da Vinci Code, right? You know, and so we say, and all his books have that kind of ideas that there's a secret code, you know, maybe it's hidden in a book or on a painting or something, and then of course you have to decode that message. You have to decrypt that message, and often there's a cipher, something that tells you how to open that code. Okay, so this is all kind of fun. So why don't we say this one more time? Encrypt, encrypted. Of course, encrypted is a 形容词. And then let's say with the D, decrypt, decrypted. Okay, code, encode, decode, cipher, cipher. Yeah. So yeah, if you ever watch a Dan Brown movie or something like that, it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, we have that paragraph above. Actually, that's a different word. You said encrypted, but it's not. We don't say encrypted. We say crypto. Oops, sorry, I'm spelling that wrong. Crypto. Currency. Sorry, if you can't read it, it's Currency, and currency means money, right? So cryptocurrency is this money, you know, obviously it's not real physical money, it's all on digital, but it's encrypted, so you can't just, anyone can use it. It's like you need to decrypt it, right? I don't know if any of you have ever used Bitcoin, but for Bitcoin, you need to have, there's a very long, to get money out of your Bitcoin wallet, we say your wallet, it's called a wallet. You know what a wallet is, right? A wallet is like, I carry a wallet in my pocket, but this is not a real wallet, this is a digital wallet, right? To get your money out of that currency or the Bitcoin wallet, it's an electronic wallet, you need a very long key or mima, password, to get that money. So we could say in a way that it's almost like a cipher, right? So the cipher is used to open a code or decrypt something or to decode something. So we say to decrypt. But yeah, this is cryptocurrency. I don't think cryptocurrency is going to go anywhere until it's a freely convertible currency, meaning that I can go to 7-Eleven and buy something with it, and it's stable. It's a stable holder of value, right? If you look at Bitcoin, it's like up and down and it's all over the place, right? So it's not a stable source of value. So it's not useful in a way. I mean, it's great for some people, especially if you want to send money around and nobody knows about it. But if I want to use it every day to go to 7-Eleven or go to the Jialefu and buy something, it's not very useful right now. And one day it's worth this much, the next day it's worth that much. And so until that happens, I don't think it's going to become a widespread use of everyday currency. Yeah, just like I've been reading a lot of articles. Honestly, I think a lot of this is disinformation coming from China. But there's all these articles right now about de-dollarization, right? They're like, oh no, the yuan is taking over from the dollar and the dollar is going to, it's ridiculous, honestly. the last I checked, that less than 3% of the world's trading transactions were done in the renminbi. Everything else is done in the dollar or the Swiss franc or the euro. Why? Because those currencies are freely convertible. They're floating currencies that you can use, and those backed by stable governments that everyone trusts. And I think the problem is, the renminbi is not at that point. Until they completely take their control off of their currency and allow it to float freely, I don't think it's, and everyone trusts that system. But yeah, so anyhow, let's read this together because we just learned this. Cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency. Yeah, I'll just write that word because you probably have seen it in the news. It's a funny word. Sorry, it's kind of small here, but it's a funny term. It's called de-dollarization. Okay, so dollar, of course, is 美金, right? But de-dollarization means, yeah, they stop using the dollar and they go to some other currency. So if you watch the news, there's all these people, these commentators on YouTube and writing articles and are saying, oh, there's going to be de-dollarization. The dollar is finished. I honestly, in my opinion, it's because it's garbage. People talking. I think it's people, honestly, and I've read this, the Chinese government pays a lot of people money to spread that message. What? Yeah, it's misinformation or propaganda saying, don't trust the US dollar. You need to buy renminbi. Yeah. So anyhow, why don't we say it together? De-dollarization. De-dollarization. Okay. So there's all these words here related to money and currency and encrypting, like encoding, decrypting, things like that. So anyhow, let's go back and read this. Yeah. Yeah. Is what? There's no real money. It's funny, every time you watch these articles, they always have these pictures of these Bitcoins, but they're not real coins. I mean, that's not like it's like a token. It's like a symbol of these coins. They look cool, but they're not real coins. You can't go out and spend them, but it's all digital. It's all online. I don't know. I think I told you about that guy who was in the news. I think he was an American guy. He forgot, he lost his password to his wallet, his digital wallet. And I think he bought it a long time ago. And I think he estimates that digital wallet was worth some crazy number, like $250 million, but he can't remember the password. And it's a very long password, right? And so I think he's given up. 放弃了. He can't get that money back because unless you know that number, that very long series of letters, you'll never get that money. So I will say this. I have many friends who buy Bitcoin and other digital currencies, but I have never bought it. So anyhow, it's up to you. Yeah. Okay, so let's read this together then. It says, Chun asked if the upgrade would enable the Bureau to share and receive intelligence from the Five Eyes Alliance. Ty said that the NSB would do so via a secure and encrypted system. Encrypted system. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a very popular smartphone or cell phone company called BlackBerry. You remember this? Yeah. Hey, what is it? Hey? Yeah. One of the reasons that phone was so popular is if you had a BlackBerry phone and somebody else had a BlackBerry phone, it was automatically encrypted. You could send, your messages were secure. Nobody else could. You had to have two BlackBerry phones. In fact, I remember President Obama, he used a BlackBerry, and it was considered, secure. I don't know what happened, but anyhow, it's not that popular anymore. I guess everyone's using iPhones and Android now. But anyhow, that was one of its benefits. Okay, so let's go on here. It says, Chun asked if the Bureau was already sharing intelligence with the Five Eyes, to which Tai said yes, and in real time without elaborating. Now, if you say without elaborating, what does that mean? Without explaining more, without giving any details. So if someone says, do you prefer chocolate ice cream? And someone says yes, without elaborating, it means they don't tell you why they prefer chocolate ice cream. They just say yes or no or whatever. They don't give you any more information. So if you want more information, what can you say to them? You can say, oh, really? Please elaborate. That's a very common expression. If someone says something to you, but they don't give you any more details, you can say, oh, really? Could you please elaborate? Give me more details. Tell me why, Okay, so why don't we say it together? Elaborate. Elaborate. Elaborating. Elaborating. Now, this is one of those words where if you pronounce it in a slightly different way, it has a different meaning. If we say elaborate, not elaborate, but we say elaborate, what does that mean? No, slightly different meaning. Beautiful usually in a very fancy, complicated way. So we can say, wow, he decorated his house in a very elaborate way, okay? Her dress is very elaborate, or she's wearing very elaborate earrings. It means they're very beautiful, fancy, but in a very complicated way. Like maybe there's many different elements. It's usually not, when we say something's very elaborate, we don't mean it's simple. It's like the opposite of simple. So it can be very fancy, but remember the pronunciation is slightly different. We say elaborate, okay? Okay, so why don't we say that together? It's a 形容词, elaborate. Elaborate. So we talk about elaborate decorations, or that is very elaborate, But if we say, please elaborate, okay, that means please tell me more, give me more details. Okay, everybody understand that? Okay, so they asked him if they were already sharing intelligence, and he said yes, in real time. There's that word, in real time, like right now, immediate, instant, simultaneously, without elaborating. Okay, he didn't give any more information. Okay, so let's read this. Chun asked if the Bureau was already sharing intelligence with the Five Eyes. To which Tsai said, yes, in real time, without elaborating. Right. Now, when we say to which Tsai said, it means to which he replied. They asked him this, to which he said, to which I replied. If someone said, somebody said, you look very tired today. And I said, to which I replied, yes, I did not sleep much last night. So we say when someone replies to something or says something in response. Okay. Okay, so let's read on here. It says, Tsai reported to lawmakers what measures the Bureau was taking to prepare for next year's presidential and legislative elections, including its efforts to counter anticipated efforts by China to interfere in the vote. Okay, so what measures means what are you doing? What measures are you taking to prepare for the next typhoon or the heavy rain? What are you doing? Okay, what measures was the Bureau taking to prepare for next year's elections, including its efforts, okay, the Bureau's efforts, to counter anticipated efforts. Now, if you counter somebody's efforts, what does that mean? You go against, you fight back against. So we can say, what are you going to do to counter his plan to take over your company, or his plan to damage your, to counter something? It means to fight back against something. Okay, so here to counter anticipated efforts. Now, have these efforts already happened right now? Anticipated means we predict that this is going to happen. We think it's going to happen. So if you anticipate something, it means you think it's going to happen. For example, like I said earlier, remember I said if it was dark and cloudy, I might say, oh, rain is imminent. Or you could say, I anticipate it is going to rain today, or rain is anticipated. as a 形容, it is anticipated. It means I anticipate, I think it's going to rain. So here it's anticipated efforts by China, okay? They think that China is going to do what? To interfere in the vote. And I know we've talked about that word interfere many times, means to disrupt, to get involved, to do something, to meddle, yeah, meddle, to meddle with something, to get involved. You know, obviously, we usually do not like it when other people meddle in our private business, right? If it's something that's yours and it's private and you want to handle it, and then someone tries to meddle or interfere in your business. So here, China, they think China will probably try to interfere in this election. So what the NSB is trying to counter that. They're trying to do something against that, to prevent it, to fight back against it. Okay? Okay, so let's read this. Tsai reported to lawmakers what measures the Bureau was taking to prepare for next year's presidential and legislative elections. Including its efforts to counter anticipated efforts. Let's say it again, anticipated efforts by China to interfere in the vote. Right. Okay. So, asked whether the NSB has a response to China's attempts to expand its sphere of influence abroad, Tsai said that if a case arises that is strong enough to be prosecuted, it would be handled by the appropriate agency. Now, of course, appropriate agency means the right agency, the correct agency, government agency, right? You know, like in America, if something big happens internally inside, we usually give it to the FBI. But if it's outside the country, maybe it would be handled by the, I don't know, CIA or somebody else. But we say the right agency, the appropriate agency. Now, there's some interesting expressions here. It says whether, you know, the lawmakers, leeway, they asked the NSB if they have a response to China's attempts. Okay, they're trying to expand its sphere of influence abroad. Now, this is a very interesting expression that we use quite often. First of all, what is a sphere? Yeah, it's like a ball. Now, normally, yeah, you say spherical means round, like a globe, right? Like the world, you know, 地球 has a spherical shape, you know, like a round, not a, you know, circle means like a 圆圈, right? But like a ball, like a globe, we say sphere, a spherical shape. Most planets have a spherical shape, right? So a sphere is like a ball, a ground. But here we're not really talking about a ball. It says a sphere of influence. Now, sphere can also mean like a space. I'll tell you a word that maybe we could use, not exactly this way, but it has the same idea, is scope. You know, we can say, what is the scope of his power or authority? It means what's the, maybe we could say the range. Yeah, maybe the field, yeah. But it's like, what area do I control? So it's that same idea, sphere of influence. This is a very common expression. So we can talk about a country's, I guess we could say a person too, person's sphere of influence. But yeah, usually we say like a country or an organization, their sphere of influence. It means what they're able to influence, what's under their influence, what's under their, not control, but influence. And what can they 影响到? Okay, so if a country, most countries, I think, would like to increase their sphere of influence, it means they want to be able to influence others to their benefit. Okay, does everybody understand that? So again, this word sphere is a very interesting word because it usually means a round shape or round space or something that's globe or, you know, but here it's used slightly different. It's almost like the scope or the range of my influence. Okay, so why don't we say this together, sphere. Remember the PH has a F sound. So sphere, sphere. Okay, and then as a 形容词, if it's something that's shaped like a sphere, we say spherical. Spherical. This becomes a R-I-C-A-L, or spherical, a spherical shape, or it's spherical. Okay, so a sphere of influence abroad, not inside China, but outside of China. They're trying to increase their influence, who they can 影响到, they can influence. Okay, so what is their response to China's work efforts to do this, to increase their range or sphere of influence? Tai said that if a case arises, of course, a case means some sort of local case in Taiwan, that is strong enough to be prosecuted. You know the word prosecute, right? If you want to, how do you say it in Chinese? 起诉, yeah. If someone is prosecuted, yeah, exactly, 起诉, 被起诉, right? It's prosecuted. They will be handled by the correct or appropriate agency. So why don't we say together, prosecuted. Prosecuted. Okay, so let's read this. Asked whether the NSB has a response to China's attempts to expand its sphere of influence. One more time, sphere of influence abroad. Tai said that if a case arises that is strong enough to be prosecuted, it would be handled by the appropriate agency. Right. Of course, if you want to prosecute a case, it needs to be strong, right? If there's not enough evidence or, then the prosecution will be unsuccessful. You'll probably lose the case. Yes? Well, and that's why I asked, because I think 起诉 is more like indict someone. But prosecute means, well, it means to bring a case against someone. But the indictment is the actual, when you file a case, right? You say, okay, here's our case against you. That is an indictment. But so they're similar words, but indictment is a specific, almost like document that you bring against them. It's like official charges, right? You can investigate somebody, and if your case is strong enough, then you can indict them, and by indicting them, then you're prosecuting them, right? So they're similar to each other, but indictment is the actual, like the document, like you say, okay, officially we have decided to indict that person. Now you can, as a 动词, you can say to indict. Now this is a funny word because we don't pronounce the C. We don't say indict, okay? Don't say indict. It's indict, okay? Indict. So why don't we say together, to indict? To indict. Indictment. Indictment. So this is a verb and this is the noun, okay, the 名词. Okay, so yeah, they're very similar. But yeah, once you've been indicted, then it's done. You're not guilty yet, but that means the case is going to go forward. You're going to go to court. Okay, yes? Instead of, for this word, influence? We wouldn't use the word for influence, but that's a very interesting word. I think I'm spelling this right. So, yeah. So hemisphere is like, again, it's like an area. Like, yeah, he said the southern and northern hemisphere of the world, right? The northern hemisphere is like, how do you say it in Chinese? Yeah. But there's another word that's very similar. Notice this. Atmosphere, right? So, we can say atmosphere is our 环境, but the world also has an atmosphere, right? That we can breathe in. If there's no atmosphere on the 地球, we wouldn't be able to live, right? You need to have this environment with like a bottle almost, an atmosphere. So we can use that atmosphere. There's another word. Hemisphere, atmosphere, stratosphere. There's all these words. How do you say stratosphere? What is it? It's like up high in the sky. There's this outer layer, right? Yeah, around the Earth. It's not down here, but way up there. That's still part of the Earth's atmosphere. So anyhow, this word sphere is a word that we use. So sometimes you might say stratospheric or hemispheric or atmospheric with an RIC as a 形容词. But these words all have this idea of a. But when it comes to this word influence, like 影响, we really only use sphere of influence. We don't usually say atmosphere. We could say that there's an atmosphere of fear or happiness. It means like a 环境, but that's a different kind of idea, different use of the word. Yeah. Anyhow, does everybody understand that, or do you have any questions? What? Okay. For this stratosphere. Okay. So why don't we say these words together then? Atmosphere. Atmosphere. Hemisphere. Hemisphere. Stratosphere. Stratosphere. That's a good question. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what hemisphere means. These are words. Often when we talk about space, like 航太 and flying and space and all that, we use these words a lot. Stratosphere and hemisphere and all that stuff. Half? Okay. Hemisphere, you mean? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on then. It says, however, China's tactics differ in Taiwan from other places, such as the US and Europe, he added. Beijing has allegedly established secret overseas police stations that the US and other nations believe are tasked with collecting information on people who criticize the Chinese Communist Party. And then it says Beijing denies the allegations. Okay, so China's tactics. Remember we said the word tactic is the way you do something, right? But it's like your method. METHOD. What's your method for doing something? You might have a plan, right? Remember we talked about strategy, right? And the strategy, that's a G, is like a plan. But a tactic is like a method. Sorry, that's an OD, METHOD. So you have a plan, but what's your method of achieving that plan? You have a strategy, but what's your tactic for achieving that strategy? Yeah, that's the way we could look at it. So why don't we say together strategy, tactic. So it says here China's tactics, their methods differ. They're different in Taiwan from other places such as the US and Europe. So Beijing has allegedly, of course, allegedly means that someone claims they have established secret overseas police stations. Now, the reason why, of course, these are in quotation marks is because it's not an official open police station, but it acts as a police station that the US and other nations believe, they think, are tasked with. Now, if you say I'm tasked with something, that means I have been given that responsibility, right? You can say, today he has been tasked with cleaning up his room, or she has been tasked with organizing the books. It means you've been given that task, that job, okay? It's your responsibility. So they believe these police stations are tasked with, or responsible for, we could say that, collecting information on people who criticize the Chinese Communist Party. And then Beijing denies this is allegedly, this is a 名词, they deny the allegations. Okay, so why don't we say, I know we've said these words, studied these words before, but let's say them once more. Allegedly. Allegedly. And then here at the bottom, allegations. Allegations. Okay. I don't know if you saw the news recently, just a week ago, I think. The U.S., I think it was the FBI, arrested 2 guys in New York City that allegedly were running one of these police stations in New York. And they were doing a variety of things. So yeah, this is very controversial. Okay, so let's read this together. Beijing has allegedly, wait, sorry, we didn't read the above paragraph. Okay. However, China's tactics differ in Taiwan from other places, such as the US and Europe, he added. Beijing has allegedly established secret overseas police stations why don't we say again, secret overseas police stations that the U.S. and other nations believe are tasked with collecting information on people who criticize the Chinese Communist Party. Okay. Beijing denies the allegations. Okay. Okay, so anyhow, yeah, establish, of course, means to create. Sometimes when you read the logo of a company, it'll say established in, or established 1945, or it'll say when that was 成立, when it was created. Okay. Okay, any questions before we go on to a different story? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. I think they have to, and this is where I think the FBI was investigating those 2 guys for a long time, and they look for a connection between them and the embassy, 大使馆, and they say, well, what are they doing? What's their, I see that they actually, some of them use a special name. They'll say something like 福建省 Overseas Service Center, 服务中心, and things like that. They use these different names. But the point is, what are they doing? If they're harassing, I think one thing that they're doing that many countries will not accept is they harass people who criticize the 共产党. You know what harass means, right? They give them 麻烦, they give them pressure, 压力, they give them trouble. And if they can say, hey, you're doing that in our country, then I can see where they might go after them. They might try to stop them, because they're like, you can't limit somebody's freedom in our country. Someone in the United States, regardless of who you are, should be free to criticize, 批评 the 共产党 in America or Australia or the UK. But if their freedom is being limited, or they're being harassed for that, that's not right? That's not okay. So I think this is where they have to kind of investigate and see if there's something like that going on. But yeah, I agree. It's hard to prove. Otherwise, I think it'd be very easy to go out and stop these groups or places. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Okay, so let's go on to a different article and see what else we have here. So this one's kind of interesting because I don't know if you remember when the U.S. was and everybody else was evacuating or leaving Afghanistan, and it was kind of a mess. There was a bomb that went off and killed a bunch of people in Kabul while they were evacuating. So this talks about that. Wait a minute. Not what I want. I got this right. Yeah. Okay. So it says Taliban. You know what the Taliban is? How do you say it in Taliban? Yeah, it's easy. So Taliban kills the mastermind of Kabul airport attack. What is a mastermind? Yeah, often, I will say that usually when we say often, not usually, I should say often, not always. But when we say mastermind, it has a slightly sinister, it could be good or bad, I guess. You could say, okay, this is a great plan. Who is the mastermind behind this plan? Means who created it. Now, master means what? Top, right? Like we have a master chef, shifu. We have a master of arts, we have a master, someone who's good at what they do. They're like a 专家, they're like an expert, right? So we say mastermind means the person who came up with this idea. They're the ones who, and this word can be a 动词. You can say he masterminded, 加一个 ed, masterminded this plan, or he masterminded that plot. So he's the one who came up with that idea. He's the person behind it. He was the one who started this idea. Okay, does everybody understand that? So why don't we say together, mastermind. Mastermind. And then as a 动词, masterminded. Masterminded. Okay, so here it says Taliban kills the mastermind of the Kabul airport attack. Now, of course, Kabul is the capital, the 首都 of Afghanistan. Okay, it says here, Taliban government forces. Actually, let me try to get this down. I don't know why it's in bold. Kind of irritating. Let's see here. Unbold. There we go. A little bit easier to read, I think. So it says here, Taliban government forces have killed the Islamic State mastermind of a suicide bomb attack at Kabul airport during the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan in 2021, the White House said on Tuesday. And what does chaotic mean? Yeah, confused, 乱, right? That's a good word, 乱. Okay, so a mess, yeah, basically. So why don't we say together, chaotic. Chaotic. And what's the 名词 for that word? Chaos, right? C-H-A-O-S, chaos. You can say right now there's a lot of chaos in our office or in our company. Okay, so why don't we say it too? Chaos. Chaos. Okay, so and of course the CH has a K sound. Okay, so they killed the Islamic State. Now, Islamic State, you remember several years ago we had this big fight against IS or ISS, and it was this this Islamic group of mostly, they did a lot of terrorism and things like that, kind of some pretty bad stuff. So we call Islamic State mastermind. This is the person of a suicide bomb attack. Of course, suicide bomb, of course, is someone who blows themselves up. They kill themselves to attack other people. During the chaotic withdrawal of the U.S. forces. Okay, withdrawal, of course, means to to leave, right? You withdraw from a country means you depart that country. You go away from it. Now, withdrawal can be other things too. For example, you can say if someone is very withdrawn as a 形容词, withdrawn, withdrawn. You can say he is very withdrawn, or he's acting in a very withdrawn. What does that mean if someone's very withdrawn? Right. Basically, you don't want to interact with other people. Now, why would people be withdrawn? Well, maybe they're very shy, but it could also be maybe they're depressed. They feel very 难过 or whatever, and they don't want to talk to other people. They want to just go stay at home and be by themselves. They want to isolate themselves. So we say they are very withdrawn. So if you meet somebody, maybe normally they're very outgoing and very happy, and then suddenly one day they're very withdrawn. You might think, there's something wrong. What happened? Did something go wrong, or did something bad happen? So why don't we say together, withdrawal. Withdrawal. And then the word, that's withdrawn. So withdrawn. Withdrawn. You can say he seems very withdrawn, or he is withdrawn. Okay, so withdraw. Now, there is one other meaning behind this word, but it's not as common. If someone goes through what we call withdrawal, symptoms of withdrawal, it's usually what happens is if someone is addicted to drugs, doping, and then they stop taking drugs, they will have their body will react to that, and they'll go through these very pain, because they really crave that. They want those drugs like heroin or cocaine or some of these other drugs, and you take it and take it and take it, and one day you just stop. Your body will react to that. And we say he is going through withdrawal because he stopped taking those drugs. And it can be very painful and terrible for maybe a week or two. During the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan, the White House said on Tuesday. Okay, so let's read this together. Taliban government forces have killed the Islamic State mastermind Let's say this part again. Islamic State mastermind of a suicide bomb attack at Kabul airport during the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan in 2021. The White House said on Tuesday. Okay. So it here says the bomber detonated a device among a crowd at the airport's perimeter as they tried to flee Afghanistan on August 26, 2021. Now, what's the word detonate mean? What's another word for that? Oh, sorry? Not diffuse. Diffuse would be the opposite of detonate. So, to set off. What would be another word? Well, you could say that. It starts with an E. What do you do with a bomb? What does a bomb do? It explodes, right? So we could say he exploded a device. He set off on a device. Now, you just used a word that is also a good word, to defuse. That's D-E-F-U-S-E. What is a fuse? Yeah. So I'll give you an example. When I was a little kid, we played with fuses all the time. Why? Because we had firecrackers, right? 火炮, right? Yeah. So some fuses were very long, and some fuses are very short. And I learned that some fuses, even though they look long, they went very quickly, right? So I remember trying to light it with the fire, and I thought, I'm going to light it and run, right? But boom, it went off right away. So we say the fuse was very quick or very short. Now, if you were to defuse something, it means you get rid of the fuse, or you stop the fuse, or you cut the fuse, so it will not explode, right? Now, of course, with a real bomb, like a big bomb, defusing bombs is very, very dangerous, right? Because if you're not careful, the bomb might go off. It might explode. It might detonate, okay? So to defuse something is something you have to take. But what else can we defuse? Tension, what else? Probably the most common word, I mean, outside of bombs, we say to defuse somebody's anger, okay? So remember we talked about triggering somebody's anger, to make them angry, to provoke them. But what if you defuse someone's anger, or you defuse a situation or angry situation? It means that you find a way to stop that, to stop it from happening, to stop it from exploding, okay? So we can defuse, often we say to defuse a situation or tense situation or angry situation, you diffuse it. I'll tell you one way that people diffuse things like that. I saw this very, one of the masters of this, and you probably remember this guy, is the former mayor of Taichung City, Hu Zhiqiang, right? Whenever things got very tense or angry in the Taichung Shihui, he would start to tell jokes, right? He would make a 开玩笑, and everybody would be like, ha, 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 and they think it was funny, and then it would defuse the situation. I thought he was very clever at that. He was very good at that. Whenever people were getting upset or angry, they're challenging, he would tell a joke, and everybody would think it was very funny, and then it would defuse the situation. Yes. Oh yeah, I got to know him pretty well. Well, my magazine cooperate with Shizhengfu a lot. So I wasn't at the Li Fa Yuan or the Taichung Shihui. I wasn't there, but I would watch it on TV. But I noticed that, we had him over at 美国商会. We had him come and 演讲 several times, and he was always very good at telling jokes. And if people are laughing, usually they're not going to get angry, right? If they think it's funny. So he was very good at diffusing situations with humor, with jokes. Okay. So, so why don't we say this together? Defuse. Defuse. Okay. Detonate. Detonate. And if you want to turn that into a 名词, we say add a tion. Detonation. Detonation. It's just like the word explosion, right? Explode, to explode, explosion. This is to detonate or detonation. For example, you can say there was a very loud detonation outside my house. I don't know what caused it. Detonation. Okay, so the bomber, okay, this is a person, detonated a device. Of course, a device is a thing. A bomb is a device. A phone is many devices among a crowd at the airport's perimeter. Now, this is another word I don't think we've talked about. What is a perimeter? Yeah, it means the outskirts, the edge. So often, let me just, like we can say, what are the outskirts, or we might say the edge. Okay. I guess we could say the boundary. A boundary is very similar to a border, right? But a boundary could also be the edge of something. Like the boundary of the city, the outskirts. But does everybody know this word outskirts? Yeah, it means the outside edge of something. So, for example, what would be the outskirts of Taichung? Dali, yeah, or Fengyuan, or up in the mountains. It's no. What's this Chu up there? The Dongshi. But even further than Dongshi, there's where is Guoguan? Guoguan is in what? Is that in Shengang or Shengang? Anyhow, I forget all my. I'm terrible with geography. Okay, so anyhow, it's the outskirts of the city, right? It's on the edge of the city. So why don't we say outskirts? Outskirts. Okay, so perimeter is the outside edge of something, right? If we have the edge, we can say, if this is an area and we say the perimeter means that line that goes around it. It's almost, again, it's similar to the word boundary. Yeah, and a boundary is, we've talked many times about the word border, right? But a border, I think, can be very official, or it could be, I guess, unofficial too. Right, a boundary would be the line between two places. But you could also say the boundaries, again, this word has many different, it's almost like a limit, okay? So for example, your parents, when you're growing up as a child, your parents will give you certain boundaries, right? They'll say, okay, you can go out, but you have to be back by 9 o'clock. Okay, that's a boundary. You can spend money, but you can only spend 100块 per day. That would be a boundary. Or, you can eat candy, but only once a week, or something like, those are all limits, 期限, right? Not 期限, 限制. And they're also boundaries. So boundaries is like a limit or a line around something, but we can also say it could be a physical line, right? Or it could be the boundaries of our property here. What are the boundaries of our land here? You could say, well, it's that road out there and the road over here. That's the boundaries, the boundary lines. So a perimeter would be the same idea. It's like a line, or not a real line maybe, but it could be a limit around something. Does everybody understand that? A perimeter. Okay, so why don't we say together, perimeter, perimeter, outskirts, outskirts, boundary, boundary, border, border. Right. We don't say our parents give us borders. We say our parents give us boundaries or limits. But yeah, so these words are similar, but not always exactly the same. So a perimeter, as they tried to flee Afghanistan. Of course, flee means 逃跑, to leave, to run away. Okay. So let's read this together. The bomber detonated a device among a crowd at the airport's perimeter. Perimeter. As they tried to flee Afghanistan. Afghanistan on August 26, 2021. Right. Okay. So it says here the blast killed about 170 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops who were securing the airport for the exit. Okay, and that's a photo caption. So yeah, the blast, of course, another word for blast would be explosion, right? Or detonation. You could say the detonation, the explosion, the blast killed about 170 Afghans. Of course, that's people from Afghanistan. And the U.S. troops who were securing. Now, we've talked about this before. If you're securing the airport for the exit, you are doing what? By securing something, you are what? Right, making it safe. Okay, if you want to make something safe, you will secure it. So, what do we secure? Let's say you're carrying something on your motorcycle and you don't want it to fall off the motorcycle. You say, I need to secure this box to my motorcycle. I'm going to tie it to my motorcycle so it will not fall off the motorcycle. So I'm going to secure this box with a rope or wire or something. Okay, so that word securing. They were securing the airport for the exit. Now, of course, exit here is it's a noun, but it's not like this kind of exit here. It's like the departure, the exit of people. The people exited the building or they exited the country. So they were securing, they were making the airport safe for people to leave, to depart. Okay? So let's read this. The blast killed about 170 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops who were securing the airport for the exit. Okay, that's a photo caption. So it says here, it was one of the deadliest bombings in Afghanistan and prompted a wave of criticism of U.S. President Joe Biden for his decision to pull U.S. forces out of the country after nearly 20 years. Okay, so deadliest, of course, if something's deadly or deadly, deadliest, it means it's most deadly. It killed the most people, or one of the most deadly bombings in Afghanistan. And what does this word prompted mean? It prompted, what would be another word for prompted? It what? It caused, right? It caused a wave of criticism. Now, wave is like a hailang, right? It's like, but a wave of criticism means a lot of criticism. You could say a wave of criticism, an explosion of criticism, criticism of President Joe Biden for his decision to pull U.S. forces out of the country after almost nearly 20 years. Okay, so let's read this together. It was one of the deadliest bombings in Afghanistan, and prompted a wave of criticism of U.S. President Joe Biden for his decision to pull U.S. forces out of the country after nearly 20 years. Right. We could say, I was just thinking of an expression, something like this whole incident was a real, for President Biden, we could say it was a real, black eye for President Joe Biden. Do you know what that means when someone says that was a real black eye for him? What is a black eye? Where do you get a black eye? If someone punches you in the face, right, and you get an injury, your eye turns black. So we can say if something becomes a real black eye for you, it means it really hurts your image. It causes you damage or trouble. So let's say you do something and you get really criticized for it, or you get in trouble, or it causes you all kinds of mafan. You say, wow, that was a real black eye for me. It hurt me. It caused damage to my reputation. So that's an expression. You can say it was this whole chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan was a huge black eye for President Biden. Okay, it didn't help him. Okay, so it says here, the leader of the Islamic cell that planned the attack has since been killed by Taliban authorities, U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said in a statement. He was a key ISIS-K official directly involved in plotting operations like Abbey Gate, and now is no longer able to plot or conduct attacks, Kirby said, referring to the spot outside the airport where the attack took place. So, this airport had many gates, 大门口, and this one gate was called Abbey Gate, and that's where this explosion took place. Okay, so the leader of, now what does this word cell mean? What would be another word for cell? Well, that's one name for cell. So if you go to a jail like a 监狱, you stay in a small cell, right? It's a small room that you're, locked into, right? But, and also, I'll tell you another one that's very interesting. It's not a prison, but how do you say it? 佛教, 基督教, they have these monks or nuns, right? How do you say a monk or nun is yeah. So often when they live in a special, each person has their own small room, right? We call that a cell also, even though it's not a jail. It's not like they're locked in there, but it's like a nun or monk, they live in a cell. I think the idea is it's a very small room that you're kind of, if you go to jail, you have no choice. You have to stay there. But if you're a monk or nun, you choose to live in that cell. It's a small room. That's your own room. It's not like a big room. So, but here, this would be another word for what? A small group. Yeah. So when we say a cell within an organization, it could be a very small, it's never big. It's always small, a small group, like a small team. And we often use this word for like 恐怖分子 for some reason. We don't use it for a lot of other things. but we say a terrorist cell, 恐怖分子 cell. Now, what does cell originally mean? What is the original meaning for cell? Yeah, so we all are made of, our bodies are made of millions and millions of cells, right? We have skin cells, we have brain cells, we have, how do you say cell in Chinese? Yeah, qipao. Okay, so that's a cell as well. So that's the kind of the original meaning for cell, but this word cell now gets used in other ways too. Yes? Well, if you're a prisoner, you would be an inmate or a prisoner. Is there a special name for a monk that lives in a cell? No, well, not for a monk, no, because, yeah, I don't think there's any special name for it. Yeah, you're a resident of that cell. A monk who lives in a cell, or nun. Does everybody know those words? Monk and a nun? Yeah. Yeah. So a monk would be, it's interesting because this word gets used for 基督教, 天主教, 佛教. They have monks and also nuns. Both use the same word. Okay, so why don't we say together monk, monk, nun, nun. Yeah. In Taiwan, the nuns will shave their heads, right? Usually, often. In like 天主教, they don't usually shave their heads, but they often will wear a special head covering or something. Yeah. Yeah. So anyhow, they will live in a cell. Now, actually, while we're talking about that, what's the place that they live in? The cell is in a place, but what's that place called? Yes. So for either any religion, again, Christianity or Buddhism, we say a monastery. Okay. A monastery is that special place. There's Buddhist monasteries, there's Catholic monasteries or Christian monasteries, but it's that special place where the monks or nuns will live. Actually, I will say this. I guess there are, usually in Christianity, we associate these words more with 天主教 and less with 基督教. There seems to be more, I guess it's more of a 天主教 term than 基督教. But anyhow, it's also used for Buddhism. So why don't we say together monastery? Monastery. And if we say somebody's living a very monastic life, that means that they have decided to separate themselves or isolate themselves from society. So they are living a very monastic life because that's related to the word monastery. So now someone could say that maybe they're actually they're not nuns or monks, but they're living a monastic life. They're separating themselves, they're isolating themselves, and they're living far away from everybody. So why don't we say that word together, monastic? Monastic. Yeah. So anyhow, that's all goes back to this word cell. Okay, so that the leader of this cell that planned the attack has been killed by Taliban authorities. Okay. Yeah. And IS, we all talked about ISIS. ISIS-K is a special group in Afghanistan. It's like a subgroup of ISIS, and it's in, I believe, I think I'm correct. I believe it's specifically in Afghanistan. Okay. Okay, so let's read this. The leader of the Islamic State cell, let's say it again, Islamic State cell that planned the attack has since been killed by Taliban authorities. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said in a statement, he was a key ISIS-K official directly involved in plotting operations like Abbey Gate, and now is no longer able to plot or conduct attacks, Kirby said, referring to the spot outside the airport where the attack took place. Okay. I think I told you before, I have a very good friend I went to high school with, and he worked at this airport, and he's very familiar with this gate, this Abbey Gate. He spent 3 years working at that airport. So yeah. There is something here I just thought of, though. It's kind of interesting. This word Abbey is actually a word that's used as a monastery, but an abbey is used for nuns. Okay? Yeah, but I think it's the same idea. An abbey or a nunnery is the same way. So actually an abbey is probably more, so if you wanted to add a N-E-R-Y, a nunnery would be where the nuns live. But this word abbey is actually also used as a place where nuns, not monks, I believe. I need to look that up. I believe an abbey is only for women. I don't think that word gets used for monks, but I believe an abbey is, yeah, for women, nuns. Of course, nuns are women, where they live. So why don't we say a word one more time? Abbey. Abbey. Yeah, if you see that word, it's related usually to nuns. Yeah. So I don't think there's one big problem, I think, and I see this in the news all the time. They're not giving women and girls freedom. And so, they said they would, right? They said, oh, don't worry, function, we're going to let girls go to school. We're going to let women go back to university. We're going to let them work in jobs. But they haven't done that. In fact, they've gone the other direction, right? They've prevented women and girls from working in jobs and going to school or university. So I would say no, they're not opening up. I mean, I'm sure the U.S. is happy they killed this guy. But I don't think their U.S. is thinking they're really good or anything like that. So yeah, but I think after having Afghanistan become a fairly open country for almost 20 years, and then to close it again, I mean that would be a very terrible thing. It was very closed before. Before the war, the U.S. and other countries came into Afghanistan. But to have it open for that long, I mean, there were people who grew up in that open system, and now to close it again, I think was a really terrible thing especially for women in that place. So yeah, So anyhow, it's too bad. Here it says ISIS-K refers to Islamic State Khorasan. Okay, that's what the K stands for. The branch of the group operating in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So it's Afghanistan and Pakistan next door. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to read that. But it says here, he was killed in a Taliban operation, Kirby said, without giving any details. So we could say, based on the word we learned earlier today, we could say without elaborating, right? Without giving any details, without elaborating. So we could use that term the same way. Okay. The pullout. Now, pullout here is a noun, right? Evacuation, withdrawal, pullout, all the same. And when you leave, you pull out, you get out. Pullout here becomes a 名词 because they are pulling out. So we say the pullout, which ended on August 30, 2021, saw Taliban fighters sweep aside Western-trained Afghan forces in just weeks, forcing the last U.S. troops to mount the desperate evacuation from the airport. Now, mount, this word mount here is, what would be another word for this here? To mount, not so much load, to carry out. to conduct. Okay, if you mount an evacuation or an operation or a plan, it means you carry it out, you conduct it, you do it. Okay, so to mount some. Now, mount has another meaning, right? If you mount a horse, what does that mean? You get on the horse, right? We have in America and in Europe, we have mounted police, right? They're police that ride horses. Yeah, you mount a bicycle, right? You mount a bicycle. It's funny, yeah, in Canada, there's a very famous national police force called the Mounties, Mounties, and they wear red. Well, their uniform, official uniform is red, and they have these funny hats, right? And they ride horses, and we call them the Mounties. Now, of course, they don't do this all the time. I mean, in their normal everyday work, I'm sure they don't dress like that. I think they're like national police. I mean, they're not like FBI, but I think maybe they are. I'm not sure. They're kind of like in America we have, the Mounties are a national police force. Yeah, I don't know what their scope is. Maybe they do some things like the FBI, but yeah, they're called the Mounties, and they're very famous for that red uniform and those special hats. And of course, they ride. I mean, not every day, but they ride these horses in their ceremonies. But if we say in America, if you go to New York City, for example, they have these special police. They ride horses, in the parks, but outside the parks too. So if you want to catch somebody, a horse is a very fast way to catch somebody, right? You can ride very quickly, especially in heavy traffic. So anyhow, we say mounted police, to mount the horse, to mount your bicycle, to mount the motorcycle. But here it means to carry out, to conduct, to do. So they mounted a desperate evacuation from the airport. Okay. Any questions on that? Yeah. I don't know if they would use that term. They might use that term. I mean, mujahideen is more of a general. It's more of a general word. Yeah, it's kind of like a holy warrior, holy fighter, right? A warrior. So they might use that word. I'm not sure if they refer to themselves that way. They might. I'm not familiar with their language. So let's read this, and then we're out of time, I think, today. The pullout, which ended on August 30, 2021, saw Taliban fighters sweep aside Western-trained Afghan forces in just weeks, forcing the last U.S. troops to mount the desperate evacuation let's say those last two words, desperate evacuation from the airport. Right. Okay. That's all we have time for today. But anyhow, hope you have a good week. Enjoy the cool weather while you can. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.